Well, hello and welcome to India Business Hour. I'm Ashmit Kumar, and here are the headlines that we're tracking this evening. It's a sea of red on the Lal Street. Sensex loses over 1,500 points. Nifty down over 2%. Shares on BSE see their market capitalization decline by 4 lakh crore rupees. HDFC Bank shares marked the worst single-day fall in 3 years, wiping out over 1 lakh crore rupees in market cap. Street gets spooked by a deterioration in the credit deposit ratio and liquidity coverage ratio in Q3. HDFC Bank accounts for more than 50% of the fall in Nifty. China's annual GDP slows to the lowest level in more than 3 decades, excluding the pandemic years. Stocks tumble across Shanghai and Hong Kong as China's population decline also accelerates. Stock markets are subdued across the world after fears that US Fed could delay the potential rate cuts. Iran strikes 2 sites in Pakistan's Balochistan province, says they were targeting a militant group. Pakistan calls the attack a breach of their sovereignty, expels Iran's ambassador, and recalls Pakistan's envoy in Tehran.
Today, the world is thanking us for buying Russian oil.
And I would expect that we may see a reasonable price range for 2024.
Minister of Petroleum Hardeep Puri defends India's decision to buy oil from Russia, tells CNBC TV 18 that its pragmatic policies have helped calm the market, stop short of speculating on a fuel price cut. IEA Chief Fatih Birol says crude prices range will remain reasonable in 2024. Infosys is positioning itself as an AI-first company, says CEO Salil Parekh in Davos. Says every client is looking at leveraging generative AI. Also adds that demand environment remains similar to what it was in Q2. Wipro CEO has our full support, says Chairman RishadPremji, dismissing reports of a misalignment between the management and the board. Also adds that there are early green shoots on demand, even though the business environment remains difficult. PwC annual Global CEO survey highlights an air of positivity around India, even as inflation and labor market risks persist. Almost 9 out of 10 Indian CEOs believe that the Indian economy will improve over the next 12 months. PwC Global Chief tells CNBC TV 18 that India is top of the mind for CEOs around the world. India is the most exciting growth opportunity, says the CEO of Swedish furniture giant IKEA, Jasper Brodin. Meanwhile, Uber CEO Dara Khosrowshahi says if you make it in India, you will make it anywhere. Adds that India will play a huge role in the EV transition. Asian Paints reports a steady Q3. Profits up 35% and revenues rise over 5%. Margins beat estimates with a healthy volume growth of 12%. India's External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar says talks with Maldives will continue. This after the island nation set March 15th as the deadline for Indian troops to leave the country. Jaishankar adds that Indian troops have been helping with evacuations and medical aid. Calls for civility from Maldivian officials after 3 ministers were suspended for statements against Prime Minister Modi. Byju's opposes BCCI's insolvency plea at the Company Law Tribunal, says negotiations to settle payment dispute is underway and seeks arbitration. BCCI refutes Byju's claims, says it only heard about Byju's intent to settle in the media. Well, let's start with a quick look at the day's market action. A cocktail of weak global cues and, in fact, domestic cues led to sharp sell-off on the Lal Street. Sensex lost over 1,600 points and the Nifty, meanwhile, lost over 450 points. That's about 2% drop on the indices. It's the worst single-day fall in nearly 2 years. Bank stocks, meanwhile, fell the most, led by HDFC Bank. Mid-caps also saw sharp corrections, but fared relatively better compared to blue chips. All in all, shares on the Bombay Stock Exchange saw their market capitalization wiped out by 4 lakh crore rupees. Prashant Nair is joining us now with a quick wrap of the day's market action. Prashant.
Complete washout of her session today. The Nifty ending down 500 points nearly, and the Bank Nifty losing 2,000 points. In percentage terms, I mean, in the Nifty Bank, it's a 4% smackdown that we saw. Mid-caps and small caps did better as compared to large caps. The indices were down about 1% or so roughly. The single sort of, if you had to blame one name or one sector, it's banks, and one name is HDFC Bank. The indication, of course, was from the ADR overnight, which was down very sharply. Numbers disappointed, and a complete washout there. It's a large weighted stock, both on the Nifty Bank and, of course, on the Nifty, and it had an outsized impact. Actually almost about 45-50% of the Nifty losses, and of course more on the Nifty Bank, came in through just that one name. But there was collateral damage because of HDFC Bank, other banks, right? And these are large caps. Kotak Bank, IDFC First Bank, Axis, Federal Bank, ICICI, Bank of Baroda, a mix of public and private, they all took knocks. But there were other pockets of losses, not just banking. So metals as a pack was down. It had seen some gains yesterday. Autos and real estate were the other two areas which saw some profit booking. Now, in the large caps, apart from the financial, Tata Steel, Hindalco, Adani Enterprises, top losers. JSW Steel saw some pullback. UPL and Grasim were some of the other names. Broader market, lots happening. Advanced decline was completely in favor of what was down. But I must say, the list of volume-led losers is not very long as compared to what went up. That list is smaller, but the list of stocks going up on volumes is longer than what was down. But anyway, I'll start with what was down. IEX, sharp knock, 10%. Zomato, Steel Authority of India, Tourism Finance Corp, South Indian Bank, Ease My Trip, sharply pulled back. Lodha, Sanghi Industries, Arvind. What was higher? Well, PSUs, right? Look at this. IRFC, RVNL, Cochin Shipyard, IRDA, Hoodco, Midhani Industries, ITDC, Dredging Corp. That's the pack where there was tremendous action. There was some results-related reaction as well. ICICI Lombard is the one which kind of stood out. So, we've broken some averages, and I think we basically need... Today, of course, it was also global markets which participated on the downside. Will that be the case when we come back tomorrow? I think that's the big question. And should we be ready for a slightly more deeper pullback? Back to you.
Well, sticking to the carnage on the Lal Street, HDFC Bank shares marked the worst single-day fall in 3 years' time, wiping out over 1 lakh crore rupees in market cap. Street got spooked by a deterioration in the credit deposit ratio and liquidity coverage ratio in Q3. Now, HDFC Bank accounts for more than 50% of the fall in Nifty. Well, Asian Paints, meanwhile, has reported a good set of numbers in the third quarter. Net profit and margins beat Street's expectations, while revenue was largely in line. The Asian Paints management said that an extended festive season supported growth through demand in the latter part of the quarter. Meanwhile, in some international action, China's GDP rose by 5.2% in the last quarter of 2023, missing Street's expectations. Full-year GDP growth also jumped by 5.2% higher than the 5% growth that Beijing had forecast. Now, real estate investment for the full year fell by 9.6%. However, investment in infrastructure and manufacturing saw some uptick. Analysts, meanwhile, believe that China's economic slowdown is because of the transition to a new growth model. Meanwhile, the war between Israel and Hamas continues to rage on. The Israeli military has claimed to have killed 6 Hamas operatives in southern and central Gaza. The IDF said that they destroyed rocket launchers used from inside Gaza to attack an Israeli city earlier this week. Meanwhile, Israel and Hamas have reached a deal to allow medicines to reach Israeli hostages in Gaza in return for additional medicine and aid to Palestinian citizens in Gaza. The deal was brokered by Qatar, which served as the mediator. With more in international news, Islamabad has expelled the Iranian ambassador and recalled its Tehran envoy after Iranian strikes inside Pakistan's territory. Iranian state media has claimed that their armed forces targeted the bases of a terrorist organization in Balochistan. The Pakistan government, meanwhile, has termed the attack as an unprovoked and blatant breach of their sovereignty. Parikshit Luthra joining us now with more details. Parikshit, relations between Pakistan and its neighbor Iran have hit a new low. What are the key takeaways?
Well, things definitely on an edge and reaching a challenging point in India's neighborhood and in the Middle East. Iran has struck 2 big targets in 2 major countries in the region in the last 24 hours. There was an Israeli spy base in Iraq, which had been attacked by Iranian forces. And at the same time, there were 2 sites in Balochistan, western Pakistan, belonging to the Jaish al-Adal group, which were also attacked by Iranian rockets. Now, this was a strike against terrorism. Jaish-e-Adal is a group which has previously targeted Iranian security forces at the Iran-Pakistan border, and this had been a concern from the Iranian side as well. Interestingly and quite significantly, this happened on a day that the Iranian foreign minister was meeting the Pakistani caretaker prime minister in Davos, and they spoke about mutual trust and about collaborating on common challenges of the time. And soon after that, we saw an attack in Western Pakistan. Pakistan, of course, has reacted very sharply, saying that it reserves the right to respond. This is illegal, unacceptable. They have expelled the Iranian ambassador to Islamabad. They've also recalled their own ambassador from Tehran. And things are, of course, deteriorating as far as the diplomatic relations between Pakistan and Iran goes. As far as Pakistan's all-weather ally, China has asked Pakistan to exercise restraint at this juncture. India has been watching very closely. This is all coming at a time when the Indian Foreign Minister, Jaishankar, had visited Iran for crucial meetings with the Iranian Foreign Minister, the Transport Minister, and even the President of Iran. That meeting had taken place over the last 2 days. Jaishankar is back in India today. There have been several meetings at the level of the Indian government to look at this from a security and strategic perspective. Interestingly, there was also an interministerial meeting on the Red Sea security implications for India. India is likely to come out with a response very soon, but we have been targeting Pakistan for terror havens, not just from a security perspective, but even in foreign policy. With all countries, we have been raising the fact that Pakistan has not been acting against terror havens on its soil. So on the issue of terrorism, yes, Iran and India are aligned, but it is unlikely that India will make any kind of direct statement or take anyone's side in this particular episode. But net-net, things are not looking good in the Red Sea. There have been tensions in the Indian Ocean region, and what has happened in India's neighborhood will definitely raise more security concerns going forward.
Indeed, a volatile situation there, Parisha. Thanks a lot for bringing us all those latest updates. Let's shift focus now to the Swiss town of Davos. Petroleum Minister Hardeep Singh Puri has defended India's decision to buy oil from Russia, speaking to CNBC TV 18 on the sidelines of the World Economic Forum's annual Davos meet. Puri said that India's pragmatic policies have helped calm the markets. The minister also added that attempts to disrupt supply lines are concerning. Meanwhile, International Energy Agency's chief Fatih Birol told CNBC TV 18 that crude price range will remain reasonable in 2024. Take a look.
Today, the world is thanking us for actually, buying Russian oil, because otherwise we would have been focusing on buying the oil from those countries, and oil price would have gone up to 250. So India, through its pragmatic policies, has actually helped calm the market, and I think we're getting credit for that. India, apart from Japan, is the only country in the world where over a 2-year period, prices of petrol and diesel at the bunk came down.
You don't believe that a cut is imminent at this point?
No, I don't speculate on the imminence or otherwise of a cut.
Huge amount of new oil production is coming from Americas, United States, Canada, Brazil, Guyana, and this growth is higher than the expected oil demand growth. I would expect that we may see a reasonable price range for 2024.
Well, more from Davos. Infosys CEO Salil Parekh said that he's having positive meetings with clients at Davos. Speaking to Shireen Bhan, Parekh said that every client is looking at what generative AI can do for them, and that's why Infosys has positioned itself as an AI-first company. He also added that Infosys is using AI for HR recruitment, sales and delivery on revenue and margin growth. Salil Parekh also said that Infosys has put in place a comprehensive plan that should bring large benefits. Take a look.
Our sense is every client is looking at what generative AI can do for them. We've ourselves positioned as an AI-first company, so we're using all of these things inside. We have assistants, AI assistants now for each of our functions, whether you look at HR, recruiting, sales, delivery. So that is a transformation inside. The client meetings are just extremely good, very positive thinking from most of the clients. Economies in Europe, US looking like they're coming to maybe not yet in terms of full recovery, but at least they see their work behind them in terms of what the issues were. Of course, the conversations are positive.
Meanwhile, Wipro's executive chairman RishadPremji has dismissed rumours of a possible misalignment between the promoters and the management. Speaking to Shireen Bhan in Davos, RishadPremji said that the CEO and the team have their full support of the founders. He also defended the legal action taken against Jatin Dalal, who quit Wipro and joined rival Cognizant. He said that it is simply enforcing the contracts.
You know, as I go into 2024, I'm feeling a lot better than I was feeling when I go into 2023. We've come in at the high end of our guidance last quarter, and that was just a reflection of strong in-quarter execution and strong sort of activity from customers. So I'm going in with cautious optimism. I don't want to declare...
That is what you said in 2023 as well.
No, but I'm going with, you know, I see some green shoots of things sort of moving perhaps positively. And so I'm looking forward to, I hope, 2024 being a better year.
How confident do you feel about the ability of this leadership team to deliver the goods today?
No, I feel supremely confident, Shireen. I think we're doing the right things. We're on a journey of change. We have a strong, stable leadership team, and in an organization that is transforming and doing different things, you're always going to have some people that come in and out. And so that doesn't surprise me. That doesn't destabilize us. And we're incredibly excited and incredibly strong with the team we have and the team we believe in very, very clearly.
And alignment between the execution strategy of the management as well as the vision of the promoters?
Absolutely. There's full alignment between the journey we're on and the journey we're going on, and
so the
don't believe otherwise.
The report suggesting that there is misalignment?
All I can tell you, Shireen, is that our CEO and our team has our full support.
Let's address what's happening across industry today. And I want to address the issue of why Wipro's decided to sue Jatin Dalal. I mean, you know, been with the company for decades. Why the decision to do that?
Yeah. So Shireen, I'm not going to get into a specific case, but let me just say the following comments, right? One is we are simply enforcing a standard industry contract that everybody sort of follows. We are not creating any prevention of employment or job opportunity for anybody, right? And we're simply ensuring that, you know, that we've signed a contract and we want to ensure that we protect ourselves from an information standpoint along those lines. So I wouldn't read more into this. You know, I find sometimes there's a tendency to sensationalize this.
No, it's not sensationalizing. I mean, it's an unusual thing to happen.
We're simply enforcing contracts, which is not an unstandard thing.
Well, you can catch that entire conversation with Salil Parekh and RishadPremji at 9:30 p.m. right here on CNBC TV 18. Well, staying with Davos, a PwC annual global CEO survey has highlighted an air of positivity around India. This even as inflation and labour market tightness risks have continued to persist. Now, as per the survey, almost 9 out of 10 Indian CEOs believe that the Indian economy will improve over the next 12 months. The survey also highlights that 70% of Indian CEOs are confident that their company's revenue growth over the next 3 years. Speaking to Shireen Bhan on sidelines of the Davos summit, PwC Global CEO has said that India is top of the mind for CEOs around the world.
The CEO survey focuses on where would you invest other than your home country. And India has continued to rise quite a bit. And the anecdotal evidence amongst the CEO community is a significant rise in terms of mindset and top of mind relevant to their capital deployment. And you see 3 opportunities. One is the continued rise of the consumer in India that needs to be served. Second is the ability to invest in India from a perspective of the supply chain opportunities that exist as organizations try to diversify their supply chain, automate it, and make it more greener. And last but not least is the ability for India to continue to serve the world and operate more globally as well.
A point that people don't give enough attention to is a lot of people talk about diversity, but diversity without inclusion is also a big trap that a lot of organizations get into. Because I think that you keep chasing metrics of, I need to have, let's say, 50% women target by 2030, or you know, each team which is 5 and above should have at least one woman who is part of the team. Sometimes this gets crowded in the fact that inclusion is extremely important, because a lot of the times you start ticking off boxes and metrics, but the experience is not that great.
In all the conversations, there has been a lot of optimism on India. And I can say that over the years, I've seen that change fairly dramatically. And even compared to last year, there's significantly more optimism because people are seeing India as a long-term market. They're also seeing India as a supply chain hub, not necessarily an alternative to China. It is a hub standalone in itself. And the questions now are, how can we come to India and make it work? Because we want to be there in the long term.
Well, the global CEOs of IKEA and Uber are upbeat on India as well. IKEA CEO Jasper Brodin said that India is the most exciting growth market for the company. Meanwhile, Uber CEO Dara Khosrowshahi said that if you make it in India, you can make it anywhere. He also added that India will play a huge role in the EV transition.
India is the world's biggest country from a population point of view. It's going to take some time for us before we get up to the type of market shares that we today see in markets like in Europe and in other places because of the physical expansion, because of building the operations. To a certain extent, we could easily make ourselves accessible digitally, but to supply goods, and also, which is so important for us, do that in a climate-friendly way, will take a couple of years. But it is definitely the most exciting growth opportunity we have. India is geographically well placed for the future market. So there is so much abundance of people, raw materials. So I see great opportunities to do that.
For us, India is worth the investment that we're making in India. So when you look at India, it accounts for 10% of our global trip volume. So India is huge for us, and India is growing at about twice the rate that the rest of the world is growing at. So fast forward, if we're talking 5 years from now, India is going to be an even larger portion of our business. You know, the Indian customer is not only very, very picky about their service, but they're also very demanding on price. So what I say to our team is, if you can make it in India, you can make it anywhere.
Well, coming up on India Business Hour, External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar has responded to Maldives' controversy for the first time. Stay with us to find out more. And you can also catch all CNBC TV 18's news and updates on Facebook, X, Threads, Instagram, and JioCinema. Well, Tata Motors has ramped up its electric play, with the Punch EV becoming the only automaker to provide a car with a 420-kilometer range for 13 lakh rupees. Speaking to CNBC TV 18, the company's managing director, Shailesh Chandra, strongly advised against tax concessions on hybrid cars. Chandra also said that car makers like Tesla must not get preferential treatment.
Asking for any differential treatment in terms of incentives and all is completely not required. Because it is primarily a fossil fuel-based technology, and therefore it should get the same treatment as what a GDI would get or a CNG would get. So frankly, I don't see a reason why there should be any digression from what already government had very well concluded few years back. From our side, as local manufacturer, the ask would be that competition in the country and for the consumers, it is always good. But every player needs to play on the same level playing field, and nobody should ask for anything extraordinary. Neither we should ask, nor anybody else should ask for a different set of benefits that what rest of the industry players are competing in the same market.
Well, in a bid to assess the ongoing crisis in the Red Sea, a panel chaired by the Commerce Ministry has directed concerned ministries to monitor the situation and its impact on India. Abhimanyu Sharma has the details. Abhimanyu.
An interministerial meeting was held with representatives from various central ministries to assess the impact of the Red Sea conflict on India and its trade. Several ministries gave their representations and replies. The shipping ministry has been asked to monitor volumes of trade which have not been impacted so far as India's exports and imports are concerned. The Department of Financial Services has been asked to maintain credit flow for exporters, and also they have been asked to provide a reply on the impact of insurance cost, as far as India's shipments are concerned, the Ministry of External Affairs is taking up the issue diplomatically via negotiations with the affected countries to find a credible solution soon, even as the Defense Ministry has upped its vigil in the Arabian Sea to provide security and escort to Indian ships in the high seas. It remains to be seen what further impact would be assessed and what further rearguard measures would be taken by the Union government, even as there is a possibility of a rise in insurance cost, and the cost of freight has already increased since ships are taking a longer route by avoiding the Suez Canal, and the time taken for turnaround time of ships has also increased by around 14 days. So clearly the government is keeping a close eye on the situation.
Right, Abhimanyu, thanks a lot for those updates. Now, troubled EdTech company Byju's has opposed BCCI's insolvency application against it in the National Company Law Tribunal, citing arbitral proceedings. The company has claimed that it is in talks with the BCCI to settle the 158 crore rupee payments dispute. It has also filed an application to refer this dispute with the Board of Control of India to an arbitrator. The BCCI has, however, denied any such negotiations with Byju's. It told the NCLT that it has only heard about Byju's intent to settle in the media. The next hearing has been deferred to February 7th to enable the BCCI to respond to Byju's objections and arbitration application. Meanwhile, in some national news, fresh violence has erupted in Manipur after clashes took place between security forces and suspected Kuki militants in Moreh town of Tengpura district. A commando was killed in the attack. As per reports, the militants threw bombs and fired at a security post in the area, following which the security forces engaged in retaliatory firing. And India's External Affairs Minister Jaishankar says that talks with Maldives will continue. This after the island nation set March 15th as the deadline for Indian troops to leave the country. Jaishankar added that the Indian troops have been helping with evacuations and medical aid. He also called for civility from Maldivian officials after 3 ministers were suspended for statements against Prime Minister Modi.
Ask the people with whom you have a daily rub in your lives. Are they excited about it? Do they get the importance of it? And I think you will see it as so. So I think there's a genuine today feeling in this country about what is happening, and I think to make it appear political is really in a way to trivialize it.
Well, with that, it's a wrap on this edition of India Business Hour. Thank you so much for watching. News and updates will continue right here on CNBC TV 18.